Greetings and salutations, pipe pals and gals. Bonne Fête du Canada. Happy Canada Day. I'm making my monthly video on July 1st, so I just thought I would wish all of my Canadian viewers, and also a little bit of a remembrance to old Northern Smokey. May he rest in peace. I think and if old Northern Smokey is still out there and kicking, and I'm prematurely putting you in your grave, then correct me, and I apologize, but I'm afraid old Northern Smokey passed away. He was a pretty interesting Canadian YouTuber, as a lot of the Canadians are, you know, up there in the northern, the true north. So again, happy Canada Day. I kind of is hoisting my my wonderful Dunhill little legacy dot there in honor of Canada Day and all those brave, good Canadians. And we also, again, some people said, well, gosh, you know, people might think you're supporting Justin Trudeau. And I guess I kind of got a fondness for Canada starting actually last summer, of all things, when I came down with COVID. And ouch. Oh, and I was watching some interesting videos. I think the camera's right there. Yeah, okay, there it is. Yeah, it burned. Watching some interesting videos from Alberta, on people going out in a boot in the wilderness, and I don't know if they were doing 30-day wilderness challenge or whatever. There's two guys, and they it was just I think it was like an hour and a half movie. It was just a really nice video, and you know, I was pretty sick, and so I just would play that video over and over and over again, you know, because I thought about being healthy and going out in the world and going out in the beautiful country. And I live here in Northern California, and I've declared that Northern California is the 11th province of Canada. So I identify as a Canadian, so there you go. A little bit of housekeeping. Smoking, of course, as I just said a minute ago, my Dunhill Church Warden, and I got some coffee here. It's not from Tim Hortons, but it'll have to do. So I hope wherever you are in the world, and especially if you are a resident of one of the 10 provinces of Canada, hope you're having a great Canada Day, or had a great Canada Day. I don't know if I'm going to be able to upload this today. I'll try to keep this one simple if I can, only because I find that it's the editing process that really slows me down. In fact, I actually made a video about 2 weeks ago, and I was going to upload it, and I'm probably now it's out of date, so I'm not gonna probably, I'll just have to put that one in the old trash bin and just move on, you know, trying to, like, well, forget it and, you know, let it go. And also, I'm smoking a little belated gift, a little tobacco gift from one of my dearest friends in the whole wide world, don't you know? And it's the Saint Espresso Warped. And it's mostly like a fruit cake, a very nice fruit cake flavored tobacco. So We just heard a big bang. Well, last Friday, many of you probably know, we here in the States, your neighbor, if you're a Canadian, your neighbor to the south, had a very big, monumentous decision from the Supreme Court, which overruled and overturned the very bad Supreme Court decision in 1973, Roe v. Wade, overturned that decision. And so lots of crisis pregnancy centers and Catholic churches have been targets for vandalism. And I can say that we have even here experienced some vandalism. Whether or not it was as a direct result of the Roe v. Wade, we're not 100% sure. There was a kind of a crazy guy. I was making a video out there for my other channel on Tuesday, I think it was, and this individual was walking literally right down the street and was yelling and screaming, and he chucked a rock through one of our windows. Didn't do a whole lot of damage, but did some property damage, and in the excess of about $300, maybe $500 with the replacing of the window and labor cost. It would probably be close to about $500. So fortunately, it could have been worse. It could have been a group of people throwing stones at our windows. I'm afraid that could even still be a possibility. But it does seem like a lot of the angry, rad, pro-abortionist, child killing people, they kind of have, for better or for worse, they it's sort of like, and I explained this in one of my other videos, it's like one of those, and some of you remember from high school days, even I remember from my high school days, although we're talking early Cretaceous period. But when the two, either guys, could have been guys, because I might have even been in one of those altercations, after you call somebody, we used to say, I'm going to call you out. Now, some of you may not know what that means, but back when I was going through high school, to call somebody out meant I'm calling you out to fight you after school, And, oh man, I think about the drama of those days. And, wow, if they had YouTube back then and social media back then, oh my gosh. And I'm sure that TikTokers, they get these, obviously that's what TikTok's all about, is the drama. But I mean, I'm just thinking, gosh, if we had cell phones back in my day and TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, oh man. And I'm sure that they do this for kids nowadays. But to call somebody out, so everybody would hear, oh, so-and-so called so-and-so out, And so there'd be a group of people kind of out there waiting for this fight to happen. And so anyway, I remember being in a couple of those. I think one time basically they were just Mexican standoffs. And that's the thing. You get, especially the girl ones, guys ones, you could have them and guys ones too, but basically they didn't really punch. I mean, they didn't get into a good fisticuffs. They basically might have threw a few punches and then they just started, talking trash talk, and basically, like, well, go ahead, hit me. Go ahead. I bet you're afraid to hit me, Well, you're afraid to hit me, And then especially with the girls ones would kind of go into the litany of, well, you did this to me, and you're the worst person in the world, and and you're a horrible friend, and all this, all this stuff, all this drama. And again, the thing that was interesting was that they would get to a point where people are like, look, are you going to fight or not? The name calling thing, we're beyond that. Don't waste our time, And after a while, then maybe somebody would throw a good verbal, insult. And then it got more like just the insult thing. It went back and forth. And then the next girl would try to, even, like I said, even sometimes guys would try to find these insults that would be, supposedly these You know, oh gosh, ooh, yeah, look what he said about you, and what are you going to do about it, kind of thing. And then after it gets to a certain point where it's kind of like a lot of bad movies these days, where it doesn't really go anywhere, you know. And then the person that's throwing the insults, and all they can do is try to like up the other person, and all they can do is try to find more insults, and after a while, people are like going, shut up, you know, be quiet, go home. You know, you're done here, you know, and I kind of feel that this is where some of the pro-abort gals have come to, you know. It's like, you know, I think when they leaked that decision, you know, about a month ago, in some ways, probably, and I don't know if it was intentional, to some extent, I think there was some intentionality behind it. I think it was meant for the left to try to, you know, rally everybody. But the thing is, you can only do outrage for so long, you know. It's just like it's like when a country goes to war. Yeah, there's this big swell of patriotism, and guys, you know, in the early, you know, flush of, you know, I'm going to defend my country, I'm going to fight for my country. And you know, then you get to a certain point, you know, you go through basic training, and now you're still kind of peaked, you know, and now I'm ready to go meet the foe, and I'm going to, you know, fight for my country. And then finally you get there, and, you know, maybe in your early days you want to be, you know, heroic, and you want to, you know, but after a while it just gets to a point where just even war and outrage and anger just become kind of, you get complacent. It's like, yeah, well, this is all it is, you know. And it's like, yeah, okay. I'm not saying that people go to war and fight for their country, you know, are you know, people that don't really care, or they don't believe in their. But it just gets to a point where you can only keep outrage and anger and even patriotism, you know, at a certain peak, you know. And even the leaders, the military leaders and the generals know that you gotta, you know, there's only so you can only keep people agitated and on edge for so long, you know. Of course, there's that great TV show called Generation Kill about the Marines, and they say, you know, they're going to the PX to get the things that they're going to need for their going into I guess Iraq, and some of them were, you know, just comfort items, like whether they were the baby diapers, so you can during those, you know, 40-hour long hauls where they're pushing into the country, and you don't have time to literally go to the bathroom, so you got to do it in your adult diaper. I mean, it sounds pretty gross, but I guess that's what they were doing, especially if they were thinking they were going to be in, you know, a hazmat situation. You're in mop gear. You can't be taking that stuff on and off, you know, at the drop of a hat, you know. It's like, ugh. So they had to, you know, buy those kinds of things, baby wipes, and, you know, things that are going to maybe help them be a little comfortable in a horrible, horrible situation, in an environment. And the guy says, well, how come you guys are only allowed to have so much stuff, and you're not getting the things that you're ordering? And the guy says, he goes, well, they know that if they can keep Marines unhappy and angry, you know, then they're going to still want to fight, because they're angry and they're mad at the world, you know. And I kind of think that that's somewhat true in with the Marine Corps, you know. Being a former Marine, you know, you very rarely got, you know, the best and the you know, the newest and the best. You always got hand-me-down stuff, and you had to make it work. And a lot of times you just put you know, one guy said, just paint it green and call it good. You know, that was kind of maintenance in the Marine Corps. I hate to say it, you know. And whether it's trucks or helicopters or airplanes, you know, you're lucky to get the used hand-me-down parts. You're lucky and grateful to even get those things. So anyway, but yeah, they keep Marines pissed off, so they're always angry and ready to fight at the drop of a hat, you know. And there's some truth to that. But getting back to the Roe v. Wade decision, you know, I think they might have done probably a little. It might have been whether it was intentional and whoever leaked it for whatever reason, it took a lot of the wind out of the sails, because by the time it actually dropped, you know, yeah, people want to gin up the outrage machine, but people had already kind of been angry. You know, it's like, well, we already been angry over it, and there's nothing we're going to obviously do. It's been done, and You know, now again, if you're on my side of the equation, you know, you're like, yeah, way to go. We're grateful. We give thanks to God. You know, Gloria in excelsis Deo, this great decision from the recent decision from the Supreme Court has overturned this evil law. So, but anyway, and I'll talk more about that maybe in a minute here. But talking about, I was going to talk about movies, I guess. You know, I talked to one of you who loves comics and loves the Marvel. I got sunburned the other day. I still look like a lobster, and I got this little strawberry here on my face. I usually break out a little bit every now and then. Usually it has to do with diet. Now, my last couple of days I've been feeling like, well, I got this big welt on my face and I was eating clean for months. And so anyway, I was taking a week off and I decided I was going to have a little bit of my naughty food that I normally don't eat anymore, which is kind of interesting. You know, some sugar and some carbs. And I think I had 2 days of those kinds of treats, and I got to a point where I said, well, I'm just not, they taste good, yeah, but the aftermath is just not good. I went to the dentist on Tuesday, and I think when they put those things in your face to suck out all the water and air, the gal who was the hygienist, I mean, she was all gloved and hazmated up, but I don't know if those the tubes themselves had been cleaned in between. Anyway, I got a nice little infection going. So anyway, but it'll heal up. It always does. And I kind of noticed on this video I'm kind of bloated for some reason. I guess it might be some of the bad eating I've been doing just for 2 days. Just 2 days I'm already. So anyway, I digress. So anyway, I was talking to this one of you all. You know who you are, and we're talking about. I don't watch a lot of movies, you know, fantasy movies, I mean, or science fiction movies, although I enjoy them to some extent, but a lot of them nowadays are just so filled with CGI graphics that, and the stories are so. It's like I said, well, you know, in many ways, the stories nowadays, the sci-fi stories are so involved. And sometimes they're kind of like, I don't even know how to follow them. I watched the Spider-Man No Way Home, and it had Doctor Strange in it, and I like Benedict Cumberbatch. I think he's a good actor. And interestingly, I was looking at some of his recommendations for movies and videos, and they did not at all mention Sherlock. They mentioned all of his movies, but they didn't mention any of his TV stuff. And I'm thinking, I wonder if he and the, you know, people kind of did they forget that he's been one of the great Sherlocks of our time, I think, you know. Now I would like to. I wish my brother had been alive when Benedict had come out, because I think he would have. I mean, we liked the Jeremy Brett series an awful lot, but he had passed just before Benedict came out. I think Benedict came out in 2008 or 2009. And I wonder what my brother would have thought of the contemporary Sherlock. Some of us purists, you know, probably at first were put on edge and kind of thought, well, gosh, you know, making Sherlock, you know, with, you know, Apple computers and cell phones, and, you know, putting him in our day and age might have been a bit jarring for a lot of people. And for me, it was a little bit of a stretch to kind of get beyond some of it. But then he won me over. He won me over. The early writing was I think, superlative. I think it was really, really top notch. I think the last season, either 3 or 4, I can't remember which one it was, it kind of seemed like they had petered out, and they were just kind of redoing a lot of the stuff they'd done before. Although I still liked some of the stories, and they were fun. You know, they had a lot of interesting stuff there that made me kind of think, I like this. This is interesting stuff. Good old Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and, those wonderful, wonderful Sherlock Holmes stories, So anyway, I thought those were really cool. I thought they did a great job. But anyway, so old Benedict Cumberbatch as Sherlock. And anyway, but now he's Doctor Strange. And it's kind of strange that they've kind of forgotten his earlier contribution to Sherlock. So anyway, but I mean, do I like Doctor Strange in the multiverse? And again, the first iteration, I mean, I saw the original Doctor Strange movie, which I really did like. Thought they did a really good job of that. But now, and Gary, Gary loves these. Gary's like a historian, a comic historian. I mean, he could probably open up his own comic book shop and just spend hours impressing people with his knowledge. I mean, he's like, kind of like the Thomas Aquinas of comics. I mean, he just has this multi-layered depth of knowledge and understanding. I mean, I'll never know all that stuff. But anyway, but also going to say is that, I watched the first experience I had a multiverse was with the Spider-Man No Way Home or whatever. I think that's what it was. But anyway, I was kind of out of my element there. It was like, where are we going with all this? How do I make these connections? What's going on? And so I just watched the Doctor Strange and the Multiverse Madness, I think it's called. Anyway, and even though I thought it was interesting and I liked it, I fell asleep halfway through the movie. That might have been because I ate too much pizza or something, but too many carbohydrates. Carbohydrate overload, coma, carbohydrate coma. But anyway, I couldn't keep up. And a lot of the CGI stuff is just overdone, I think, my own personal opinion. It's way too overdone. I think they try to use CGI to bolster up a weak story. And I was trying to stay interested and kind of, okay, now what's happening? Why are we, again, special effects are great stuff, but if they don't tell a story, I mean, where it's clear enough to where old guys like me can kind of follow along. But the multiverse thing, I think I'm starting to understand it better, but it's for me at first, it was like, what? The first time I got exposed was Spider-Man, and we've got 3 or 4 different Spider-Men and different, the different actors that have played Spider-Man were now reprising their roles, but now interacting with the other versions of Spider-Man movie guys. And I'm like going, where are we at with this? Why are we doing this? I mean, okay, I think I understand it. Anyway, so like I said, I need to rewatch the movie. Sometimes, when these movies are really long and the story plot just goes here, there, and everywhere, I lose track and I fall asleep. I actually fell asleep during this movie. But anyway, so I'm probably more of a person that is really tuned into a good story as opposed to a good special effect. Yeah. So, but anyway, so if you're into the multiverse and you like those kinds of movies, I understand they're fun to watch. I love the sound design in a lot of these newer movies. I mean, if you have surround sound, it's a real treat. So that's another dimension to storytelling, sound design and music. That's another wonderful component to storytelling. So, hold on a second. Delicious. So, and so I've been still doing my post-COVID exercise every day, 5 to 6 miles a day. You probably need to bump that up now by a mile or two, so the summertime is here. Although somebody pointed out the other day as we were driving back from a nice meal at this wonderful old range steakhouse, somebody said, well, I think the longest day was a couple days ago, right? And I go, yeah, I guess you're right, 21st. And so that means that the days are getting shorter. It's funny because when you live in a place that you have 4 seasons, you know now that winter is coming. Now, you look out on a nice summer sunny day today. It's July 1st, and you know that it's a beautiful summer day, but the days are gradually getting shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. And soon it's going to be fall and winter again. I mean, that's the kind of it's a wonderful trade-off. You get the 4 seasons, and they're glorious in their own ways. But the problem with summer up here is that like any place in the Pacific Northwest, the danger of wildfires is prevalent. It's just, I mean, it shouldn't be. I think it's lazy government in our state. We have a governor who basically says, it's just part of life. No. I'm sorry. No, that is a wimp ass excuse. Forgive my cursing there, but it is, or crudeness, I should say. But it is. It would be like, it's just lazy. It's irresponsible. It's lazy. It's atrocious way of thinking. Okay. And instead of trying to literally prevent forest fires. When I grew up, we had Smokey the Bear, and Smokey the Bear, come on, only you can prevent forest fires. Okay. Well, we don't have that mentality or attitude anymore. We used to have the CCC, California Conservation Corps, which is pretty much their job was to clear and take away all the dead debris in hot areas and problematic areas in the forest to at least kind of keep it down so there wasn't all that fuel on the floor that makes these wildfires just extremely dangerous and unpredictable and unmanageable. Okay, so we've kind of gotten now. I don't know if in the last few years people are saying now this is not acceptable, and I think a lot of people are saying that, but we still have the tyrannical government that we have here in California. Kind of like, again, unfortunately, some people might mistake that I'm a big Justin Trudeau fan and I love the Canadian government. Well, I think the Canadian government, just like the California government, is run by a bunch of autocrats, a lot of tyrannical people, and they are just governing by fiat, not by democracy and not by, so that's why, yes, I love the Canadian people, and I love the Canadian people like last February who were beginning the truckers movement convoys and going to Ottawa and standing up for their freedoms, their liberty and freedom. Okay, because unfortunately we have people that are dictators now, tyrants. Whether the mask mandates or the vaccine mandates, whatever happened to freedom and liberty. Okay. Personal freedom and liberty. Both our countries, United States and Canada, were based upon freedom and liberty. Okay, and those freedoms are either outlined in our Bill of Rights and our Constitution here in America, or their Charter of Rights and Freedoms in Canada. And unfortunately, they've been trampled upon. They've been shredded in some places because some people with agendas who hate our countries, whether it's Canada or America. They hate the countries because they have convinced themselves that they're evil and they were built upon all these other problems. And although the governments aren't perfect and the people that founded them weren't perfect, they did a pretty good job in making sure that individual freedom and liberty was kind of the watchword. It was that was the foundation of these governments. Now you can say, well, what about indigenous people and what about all the oppression of, our American slavery and all that? Well, those things are true. They're ugly. They're other ugly things. Just like this ugly thing on my face. It's a blotch. It's not something pleasant to look at. It shows infection. It shows problems. But again, when you address the problems, you can bring healing to those, and make things better. And I think that our governments, respectively, when they have been governed by the people, for the people, and of the people, yeah, they work themselves out. Clearly, they work themselves out. We don't have slavery anymore. Sorry, BLM, you want to kind of drudge up, the, slavery. Well, yeah, it was a blight on our history, but we let all of our slaves go last week. What's your problem with that? Anyway, so First Nations people, I think Canada has done a very good job of respecting their sovereignty and their rights, in the different provinces. So, again, was it perfect? The implementation of whether it's the Charter of Rights and Freedoms for all people, or our Constitution for all men and women are created equal. Well, we're moving in that direction. But unfortunately, our young people have been, I think, sold this bunch of hatred and anger and resentment, and it's like, why? It's just like a family. Families aren't perfect. And some families have horrible problems, but it's just like, I didn't have the greatest father growing up, but I don't think all fatherhood needs to be abolished. It's all patriarchy and it's all evil and oppressive and bad, and we got to get rid of it. Well, that's stupid. It's dumb. There are good men that are fathers. Doesn't even mean that they're perfect. It just means that they're, but you got to have fatherhood. You got to have motherhood. You got to have, so those things go together. And people aren't perfect. When human beings become perfect, maybe then we'll have everything will be perfect. And then we'll be bored. What are we going to do now? But there's always room for improvement, always room for excellence. Again, you can try to be the best version of yourself, instead of trying to tear down and throw rocks at other institutions that you think are evil and bad. It's just, I don't know. It's just, I think one of the things that my generation did learn is that even though you recognize the imperfections in something, you recognize things could be better, and you work towards making things better, not tearing them down. And I think that's, for me, that was, whether it was recognizing that little black kids were just as good as I am, and I could be their friend, and they could be my friend, that's all that mattered. But to say now, well, you were a white person, you're a bad person, you're a racist, you were born a racist, you'll always be a racist, and we have to now come against you and try to hurt you now because you hurt our ancestors. Really? That's what you're thinking? That doesn't make things better. All you're doing is sowing more anger and hatred and division. So anyway. But I think Canada, one of the big claims about Canada, going back to Canada, is multiculturalism. Okay. And I think a lot of people embrace that. They don't, are there racist people? Yeah. There's always going to be racist people, I guess. But, anyway, I'd rather be building something instead of destroying something. And unfortunately, our young people, some of them have been told that you have to basically destroy the current society in order to make room for something else. Well, tell me what the something else is and how that's going to be better than what we have now. Because all you can do is break windows and set things on fire and say F-bombs on everything. Well, how's that making things better, I ask you? It's not. So anyway, I do kind of digress just a wee bit there. Let me get the old briar fired up once more. I'm going to use the old boy this time. There we go. So, I'll go ahead and maybe use this as my last little thing I'll talk about. For this video, maybe I'll come back in another one. But last Friday we had the wonderful decision by the Supreme Court to overrule or overturn Roe v. Wade. And yes, I know that there are, a lot of people that are angry, upset. They're trying to gin up a lot of support, and I think they're going about it the wrong way. They have been for years, and they probably won't learn any good lessons from this one either. But the thing is that whether we like to admit it or not, especially people on the left, their argument falls apart because it completely overlooks science and biology. Now, when I was younger, many decades ago, I remember, talking about this issue and being a young guy who, before I became a Catholic, and certainly before I became a priest, was, dating, with gals and, things that go with all that. And so, that was probably a concern, when you're dating and you're having relationships with people. And even back when I was kind of going through some of that, we recognized that there were things that were acceptable as a Christian and things that weren't. So, if you were living a Christian life, you recognize that, no sex until marriage, But if you were a carnal Christian, and I was for a time, where you kind of walked away and said, "Oh, I'm going to do it my way," and unfortunately, you made decisions that were not wholesome. They weren't in keeping with good values, and so there were times where you realized that what I'm doing is going to be possibly bringing forth a new life. And if that happens, what's going to be the response? Again, one of the response was, well, even if I'm going down this path that is not really the right path, morally, at least I know that, if life does become, as a result of a union, let's say, then the other equation, a variable is, well, you can't go out and kill something that's alive. It's a human being. So again, that was an issue that was something that was that was relevant to my life at the time. So it wasn't some abstract thing. It was like, well, okay, this is a possibility. But then I remember, when I started college and I started going down this other path, and okay, certain things in my life I didn't do those anymore, and that was just no longer part of my experience. But I certainly intellectually and emotionally knew that, that's still, for other people, that's still going to be a consequence. And I remember, having a debate with another Christian person who, highly intelligent, but I remember, they kind of, I said, well, it's wrong to take a human life. And he goes, well, it's not, it's the woman's body, that whole argument. And at first I feel like, I kind of thought, well, I don't know how to answer that. I guess it's a woman's body. Well, again, basic biology says, no, it's not. No, the body, the new life within her is a part of her body, but it's not her unique body. It's a unique individual human being. And this is where a lot of young people, even today, because they have no concept of human biology and science, they see it as some of the ladies will talk about it as if the new life within them is a parasite. It's not a parasite. It's a pregnancy. It's a big difference. Parasites you can pick up by going down to the beach or something. Go out and swim in some water that's got these other little animals, and they can bore into you, and against your will, without your even knowledge, and that's the problem with viruses and bacteria. They little living things that invade your body. Well, the problem with pregnancy is there's not a pandemic of pregnancy, ladies. Oh, isn't it interesting that some of these gals that are screaming the loudest are old dried up crones like Nancy Pelosi and Liz Warren and other unattractive, overweight, disgusting feminist lesbians. And these categories of women are in no danger whatsoever of ever becoming impregnated. Okay, there's just ain't gonna happen, girls. Okay, it just isn't gonna happen. So, it would be like, me, let's just say that I'm somebody who wants to get upset about some anti-vegan thing, Let's say they want to take away all the Boca burgers or something like that, and I get all upset about that. Hey, I don't care about whatever your diet is, but I'm not a vegan. I'm not somebody who's a plant-based person. And so for me to be outraged that they're going to take away Boca burgers or the soy burgers, and say, oh, this is terrible, or whatever, it's like, well, I really don't have a dog in the fight because I'm not really that kind of a person. It's like, it doesn't affect me, So maybe that's not a really great analogy, but I'm just trying to say that it doesn't have I don't have a vested interest. That doesn't affect me one way or the other. It's not an issue for me. Even if I tried to make it an issue, it's really not an issue for me. But anyway, so that's the way I look at it. This whole issue is that the majority of these women are women that are now. I'm not saying they're all ugly and unattractive or old and dried up and crones. But the majority of them are, and a lot of them is kind of bizarre. Like, why would, you even be concerned about this? I don't understand that. And you can say, well, it's all about freedom. Well, we talk about the freedom. In other words, our freedoms are based upon first and foremost life. And if you're not going to let somebody live, that's kind of a moot point. Everything else falls apart after that. So if you're killing life, a life of a new individual human being, which you do, and all the sophistry that goes with this whole argument. It's like they're talking about women's reproductive rights. It has nothing to do with women's reproductive rights. It has to do with killing another human being. That's it. It's you're talking about legalized homicide. One group of people gets to legally kill another group of people. Why? Because they're bigger and stronger. Isn't that bullying, folks on the left? You people that like to scream about, oh, bullying this and bullying that, and oh, we're bullying trans kids, or we're bullying the gay kids, but what about the little kids in the mommy's, uterus? Okay, that's basically what abortion is. It's the epitome of bullying. A bigger, stronger person gets to pick on a weaker, vulnerable person. And they get away with it. That's what bullying is really bad, is that somebody, because of their strength or their power, their bigness, gets to beat up on a helpless, weaker, smaller person. I get to impose my will on you, right? That's what a bully is. I'm going to twist your arm and make you say uncle. I'm going to make you maybe give me your milk money, or I'm going to make you give me that peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or I'm going to make you, whatever it is I want to extort from you, because I'm going to exert my will upon you because I'm bigger and stronger. That's all it's about. And so my whole point is, and I think a lot of people, and again, a lot of people that scream the loudest, and it's like, some of these, you hear some of these young people say these stupid things. Well, it's just a undifferentiated clump of cells. It could be anything. It could be a lizard. It could be a kitty cat. It could be a broccoli. It could be a stalk of lettuce. We don't know what it could be. It's possible it could be anything. What? Or it's undifferentiated. They go, well, it's just a bunch of cells. I got news for you. We're all a bunch of cells. Whether you're in the womb or outside the womb, you're a bunch of cells. You're a collection of cells. Did you know that? Yeah. I'm a collection of cells. By the grace of God, we're all a bunch of cells. Anyway, it boggles the mind, the stupidity. And basically, I think, again, people see through the feeble, the unscientific, the unbiological based arguments that are ridiculous. They're really ridiculous. They're absurd. And at the end, it gets back to the two high school girls having their cat fight, and basically one of them starts basically screaming more insults at the other one. Everyone's like, you going to do something about this or not? All you're doing is stand there talking. That's one of the things about those after-school fights. Kids would gather around because they wanted to see a fight. And if all it was just an exchange of insults, people got bored really fast. And they was like, hey, you going to fight or not? In other words, put up or shut up. You really going to, in other words, you're going to really bring, you're going to bring the real, the grievance. Are you really going to bring the grievance, or are you just going to call names at each other? And after a while, people would just kind of like, even though the other, maybe that one girl or even the guy would be screaming the insults, everybody would be like, come on, put up or shut up, and after a while, if the other person was still, well, you did this and you did that and you're this and you're that, people would say, oh, shut up, just shut up, either fight or go home, that kind of thing, And I kind of think that that's really where it's at right now. I think, they'll try to use statistics. Oh, everybody's in favor. The majority of people are in favor. No, I don't think so. I think most people, they may not exactly say this, but they know that that's a life. I think the science has made it very clear that whether you agree with abortion or not, you can't deny the fact that it's a human being that you're destroying. You're cutting up. You're cracking their skull open and sucking their brains out. I know it's graphic, and forgive me, but that's the reality, okay? And deep down inside, everybody knows that. This isn't just a quote-unquote, a clump of undifferentiated cells that just, no, it's a human being. It's a real human life. And then they like to use the term medical procedure. It's a medical procedure. Now, we all know that some medical procedures have risks. We all know that. And whether you're getting a knee replaced or you're, getting getting a tummy tuck or whatever it is, it's a medical procedure, and it involves risks. And the possibility is that there's maybe a percentage, maybe a 5% chance that you don't survive that medical procedure. You're going to die. Yes, you can die. And I've had people I've known that have gone in for routine knee surgeries, and they don't come back. But in a quote-unquote abortion medical procedure, a human being always dies, 100%, without a doubt. A person is going to die. And unfortunately, over 62 million people have died as a result of that medical procedure. So I think the real pro-life movement has gained a great footing. And yes, there's still going to be abortions in California for now. Because of why? Because of the tyranny of the tyrants like Governor Newsom and the Democrats. I heard AOC, and I've asked this question in the last few years. Are there any pro-life Democrats? And she got on there and said, we cannot tolerate any pro-life Democrats. Wow. Sieg Heil! Yep. It's fascism, and that's why I celebrate Canada Day and I celebrate American Independence Day, is because it's founded upon those wonderful beliefs of liberty and freedom. So, I'm hoping that we will see a turnaround so that, people who are yet to be born but are alive, just as alive as you and I are, get a chance to experience liberty and freedom. And if those are the foundations of our societies, both Canada and the United States, then people will experience life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So that's why I celebrate Canada Day today, July 1st, celebrate our American Independence Day on July 4th, and we celebrate the great blessings of liberty and freedom for both of our countries. Okay, I think I've exhausted what I wanted to say on this video. Thank you guys and gals and all genders in between, and thank you for watching, and thank you for spending a little bit of time with me, and I hope you have a great summer as we kind of, actually move into fall. By the time I make the next video, it'll be late summer, and soon, before you know it, winter will be here. All right, so as I like to say, light up your world and light up your pipe. And I always like to remind people that smoking is sort of like incensing of the soul. So think about that. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Okay. Thanks an awful lot for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.